And for someone that you knew so well, I'm sure that you received this news with quite some sadness.
Good afternoon, Peter. Yes, indeed. When I received the news this morning, it was absolutely devastating. On behalf of the community of Soweto, for which is well renowned, the long-time standing friends of Dr Maponya, the business community and entrepreneurs across the length and breadth of this continent, we send our sincerest condolences to the Maponya family.
All right, let's talk about his vision. I mean, this was a man who did things that were not being done by any black businessman in the country, given what he had to put up with. And then one of his last big things was this Maponya Mall, where you were the marketing manager. And I just wonder what that symbolized, when the doors finally opened.
Yes, Peter, indeed. The acquisition of the land on which Maponya Mall was built was a 20-year-old dream for Dr Richard Maponya. And when the mall opened its doors in 2007, his vision, his long-time vision, had been to create a world-class shopping center in Soweto, where we had seen a lot of people leaving Soweto to go and do shopping in places like Sandton. And he really believed that Sowetans and people living in the township deserved quality and state-of-the-art establishments. And this was what was at the core of the establishment of Maponya Mall. So to have seen that vision come true for him, and to have worked under his leadership and understanding how long and how many years it took him to build his dream and vision as an entrepreneur, really also inspired me and other entrepreneurs in our community.
What was he like to work for?
He was an absolute astute businessman. He kept time. He was impeccable in his understanding and planning of what needed to be set out. And I think I was quite privileged to spend a lot of time in his home, one-on-one, looking at the current vision he had for his business, which later then extended to a dealership down the road, as you know. And so he kept on dreaming and building, and just his character. He was magnanimous, to say the least, and really it's a great loss.
He died at age 99, but it seems as if he just didn't know when to quit and when to stop. Was that your experience of him?
Absolutely, Peter. I recall one morning visiting him for a meeting at his home at 8 in the morning, and he had come downstairs in his suit. He was all suited out. And I said to him, we call him affectionately Papa, "She's, it's just me you're seeing." And he said, "You must always be ready." And that was just his attitude towards himself and his business, and it was absolutely amazing.
So you're an entrepreneur yourself now. What would you say you learned from him that you've taken on into business yourself?
In fact, how I got into retail was through a vision that we shared with Dr Maponya. And at the time I was working for him at Maponya Mall, we had set up quite a large stockfell bulk buying group, and we had worked closely with Pick and Pay, the anchor at the time. And so through his leadership, through his mentorship, I was then able to then become a retailer myself. And so without having had worked under him, worked for him, being guided by him, I wouldn't be a retailer. And so he had a direct impact in the businesswoman I find myself being today. And I share his vision with other entrepreneurs that I mentor through a retail stockfell network, a network of entrepreneurs in retail. We're about a community of 80. And so with his leadership, with his guidance, I've been able to extend that mentorship to a younger generation of the business community. So he has touched so many lives.
So a lot of people will talk about his achievements in business and how he worked very hard to build this empire of his. I just want to know a little bit about what he was like when he wasn't being Dr Maponya, the businessman. What was Richard Maponya like as a man?
So, as a man, I've known Dr. Maponya since I was 7. He was a close friend to our family. And I recall meeting him in our home. And he was a very strict businessman, but he had time to impart knowledge. When he did spend time at the mall, we'd have a lot of visitors who would come casually, and we just casually catch up, or he'd like to share his life and journey and experiences in business. So when he wasn't working hard, he'd be mentoring and sharing his successes, his failures, and just the greater goodness of being able to put food on people's tables. So he was a very giving man. He was a great man.
All right, and that's where we'll leave it. Thank you very, very much indeed for taking the time to share your thoughts with us about him. And once again, our condolences on his passing.